I believe we've got 50 in the room. We'll go ahead and get this thing started. We're just a few seconds early. Wildlife report. Earlier today, I had a turkey in my backyard. Yesterday, I had some baby bunnies. I found a nest of baby bunnies. There's a whole story behind that, but a bunny about that big. I got some pretty good pictures of him or her. It's hard to tell. And then also had a deer wander around my yard for the last couple of days. I've seen it every single day, so it's in the area. So that is your and I had a bird strike one of my windows and live. I'll do a whole video on the crazy animal stories on my backup channel one of these days. Got to say hi to everybody in the room. Arts 4014, Randall Spencer, Daniel Kester, Chris Dope, Chris Bedesa, Kimberly Kester. I did point out that it is 81 degrees F right now in southeastern Michigan. Turn the air on, but it's supposed to be a high of I think 59 on Thursday. So like we still have this erratic weather, for lack of a better word, and you really can't count on it that well. So I'll try to possibly mow some grass today, but they're calling for rain later on this afternoon. So we'll see. Greets from Milwaukee, M. Kolba, Arts 4014. If I didn't already point that out. And a whole bunch of other people here. I'll catch up now. Blah, blah, blah. Gentlemen, start your engines. And by the way, Indy 500 is approaching. Blah, blah, blah. Saw his first hummingbird yesterday. Wow. I don't see them often near my property, but I see them a lot when in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, considering how far they travel always blows my mind. And by the way, a couple announcements I've got to make. I mentioned a few weeks ago that a very dear friend of mine, a guy I've known for over 50 years, his stepson got called up to the major leagues. I didn't mention his name in the previous video because I'm not sure if I mentioned before or after that he was going to be there. But his name is A.J. Ewing, and he plays for the New York Mets. And he had quite a good start. His first game, he hit a triple. I believe he stole a base. I believe he got walked a bunch of times. I think he scored a run and had an RBI. And he's doing pretty well right now. Although last night he only had one hit and 4 at bats. But he did steal a base. But on a review, they overturned the call and they called him out. And if you watched it in like ultra uber slow motion, he beat the throw by a mile. But as he slid past the bag, he put his foot down, and his foot went over the other guy's foot, the defensive player's foot, and it popped off just a split second, and the guy had a tag applied to him, and they called him out. So, but I got to tell you, there's going to be a game today in about 40 minutes, about 1:40, the New York game, the old Subway Series, is going to start, and I will not watch the beginning of it because I'm here with you guys. So if anybody here has access to the New York game on the television, at 1:40, please turn it on and let me know if A.J. Ewing comes to bat and what he does. He was batting 6th last night. He was batting 8th earlier, and they moved him up a little bit, so he's doing pretty well there. Alex A., hello, Steve from Barrie, Ontario. Believe in yourself from Napanee, Ontario. But Ontario is huge. Oh, Jeff Hidalgo, 8457. Hey, Steve from New Hampshire. Cheers, Jeff. Old Payne, I had to put feeder out because the hummingbirds were looking in the windows. Yeah, they're like, the windows, come on, feed me. Scooters, Pops. This stream lasted longer than the Gina and Ronda match. What happened? I didn't know that match was last night. I've always been a big Ronda Rousey fan. Tim Nossum, people say, hey, Steve. So, hey, Steve. And good afternoon. Miko Angels checking in from Denmark. Bob Kerflugen, good afternoon, everyone. Hello from a toasty 88 degrees South Carolina. Tyler Pasquale tuning in live from the new house just closed Thursday. Congratulations. It's always fun and always a drag. As someone who's bought a house before more than once and or moved more than once, quite often closing the house is the exciting part. Then you got to move. And whether you use movers or not, it's always a grind. So there you go. High frame rate. We need to get you back on VinWiki. I've been on VinWiki, I think a total of 20 times. And I believe he still has a couple videos of mine in the can, as they say. He hasn't played them yet. He's spreading them out. I don't think he wants people to get sick of me, which they would if he played them back to back to back. Solaris Long Haul. Hey guys, have y'all seen the video of the wacky Waymos in Atlanta? Yeah, for some odd reason, groups of Waymos get together and terrorize neighborhoods by going around cul-de-sacs and so on. No one quite knows what's going on. It could be a publicity stunt. Bob blah blah says the Ronda Rousey match lasted 17 seconds. Yeah, who won? That's either great news or horrible news if you like Ronda Rousey, right? Or if you are Ronda Rousey. Stephanie Howe, congratulations. Arts 4014 thinks a female hummingbird is setting up a nest nearby. Yeah, very, very small nest. Very, very small nest. Prodigal stranger moved 8 times in my life, and I don't care if my current apartment becomes a crack house. I ain't leaving. You know, it's one of those things. And by the way, I once had the occasion of using professional movers. It's a long story. Someone else paid for it. But movers came in, walked through my house, said, "Yep, we can do this." And they came in, and it was like a whirlwind. And I went to work, and I came home that night, and everything in the house was packed in boxes, stacked in a perfect cube on my living room floor. Everything in the house, except for the big piece of furniture. Truck came up that morning. It all went on. Truck went to the new house. It all went off, and they put all the boxes into the rooms where the stuff came from. And what's weird is I still did a ton of work because I had to unpack all those boxes. Lewis Browning insulator looks great, but it's not clean. It's dusty. Excuse me. Of course, I have half an hour to set up. I think I'm good to go, and then I've got something in my throat. But Lewis sent me an insulator, much as the one I mentioned in my video on my backup channel 2 weeks ago. I just need to clean it. It's dusty. It's got patina on it. I will clean it, put it on the set. It is clear. The insulators we found were often clear or blue or green. Oh, Ronda won with an arm bar. Again, Kevly says. And Scooters Pop says also. Ronda Rousey came up through judo, then got into mixed martial arts. Then she retired. Then she got back into it. She was the master of the arm bar. If she got a hold of your hand and got both her hands on your arm, there's a good chance about 15 seconds you'd be pleading for mercy because otherwise she's going to break your elbow. And it's just one of those things. Johnny Quest enjoying the live stream from an undisclosed location in the land of Nye. Janie Segrest is back. Good morning. I'm finally catching you live after a couple months missing. Yeah, we missed you. We missed you, my friend. Yeah, Wild Bill, good news. Bought a new house. Bad news? Bought a new house. And also the question always is, is the new house in perfect condition, or is there going to be stuff you're going to find out about it? Isaac Bob York, never hired movers, but then again, I've lived within the same square mile all my life. Oh, I've made the local move before. I've moved literally where all my stuff had to go about 100 yards. I'm not making that up. About 100 yards. And I did most of it myself. But I did need help with some of it. But that was the easiest move I ever had. But you're right. Once you go beyond like a mile, 10 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles, it's all the same thing. You got to put it on a truck and take it off a truck. It's a question of whether you're doing it with professional movers or your friends. And the older you get, the less and less your friends want to help you. Carl's Corner didn't get the memo. Sorry about that. I put these up right around 12:30 or 12:40 is when I organized the chat. And then I YouTube knows it's there. It's scheduled. It's just a question of whether or not they're going to let you or tell you about it. Ian Hunter, any interest in starting a class action on Dodge 6.7 Cummins dreaded heater grid bolt killing engines? No, but if there's a problem with it, somebody else will do it. I just don't do class actions anymore. DePaul sent me a blue-green insulator. Was supposed to be delivered yesterday, but tracking shows it's still in Detroit. Hopefully he'll have it soon. Yeah, I went by the P.O. box yesterday and picked up some stuff. Larry T, we moved across the street once. Wild Bill, a new house is never in perfect shape. Well, if you built it new yourself, at least you have a punch list and you can point to something and say, hey, fix that to somebody else. Janie Seacrest, every time I've moved, it's been me moving because karma doesn't follow moving help. Believe in yourself once worked for a moving company and got in a pushing contest with a baby grand piano. There you go. Yeah, Belio, free beer and pizza doesn't have as much appeal as when you're over 50. And the weird thing is, like, I'm generous. I will take care of people who help me. But it's just somebody, once you hit a certain age, the idea about picking up a couch and moving it up a couple flights of stairs, ain't no price make it worthwhile. Gray 999, where did our founding fathers make their intention clear that community caretaking would exempt police officers from constitutional restraints? You're asking a question that many of us have asked, and we all basically say that they never did. I highly doubt they would have agreed with that. But as we know, with qualified immunity, the Supreme Court found it somewhere. Somewhere they found it. We're not quite sure where. Cleo's mom says, my son was a mover with Mayflower and he made more in tips than pay. He knows how to get old ladies to love him. Does Mayflower allow their workers to get tipped? Or is it one of those things they just kind of turn a blind eye to? I'm just curious. Jennifer, Nebraska. Howdy from Windblow, Nebraska. There you go. The prodigal stranger. How many times have I got to tell someone to stop calling me? Well, the sad part is that you can put yourself on the do not call list. They're supposed to stop, but they never do. Blah, blah, blah. I just love sleeper sofas, light and fluffy. Yeah, are you talking about the ones that have a fold out and they got the frame in there? They weigh like 1,000 pounds and they don't bend. I had a house a while back where I had an upstairs, and to get there, you had to go up a really weird, like acute angle stairway. It was designed by like MC Escher, and the only way to get the actual box frame up there was to bring it in across the roof in through an upstairs door. And getting it down is easy. You just take it out and throw it. But Gojo fan, hello from Philly. Jerry Kugil. Hi, Steve. Happy Sunday to you and all. Slartabart Fast is in the house. Slartabart Fast. Cleo's mom, how do you lose friends? Ask him to help you move. Janie Seagrass likewise likes her apartment just for new release. 8+ years living there. We told them we'll move when we're dead. Chris Harder, what happens when attorneys alter text message exhibits? Hopefully somebody has the original text message and can show that it was altered, and then you get the attorney in trouble for modifying an exhibit, which is not right. That would be a fraud upon the court. So I've never encountered an attorney doing anything of that nature. But, nothing surprises me these days. I mean, attorneys still use AI. And then when get caught, say, oh, I didn't use AI. And they use AI and the response says I didn't use AI. The prodigal stranger had a bumper sticker on his Silverado that says, yes, I've got a big truck, and no, I won't help you move. Ian Hunter, when I was in Iraq, I moved 15 to 20 times. Amazing what you don't need when you have to carry everything you own. Likewise, I've heard people jokingly say that when you move, about a third to a quarter of your stuff gets damaged. And so after every third or fourth move, you can just throw everything away and start over again. It's the same thing. AMZ, what's your favorite pie? I like French silk pie. The fluffy chocolate speaks to me. Speaks to me. Michelle Price caught your video on getting pulled over. Michigan cops are nice. Virginia has the toughest driving laws in the country. Here, it's have a nice day. Here's your ticket. It depends on the jurisdiction. I got pulled over by a state cop, and the time before that I was pulled over was also a state cop. And I've had good luck with state cops. It's usually the city cops. And I think they're under more of a quota situation than the state cops are. Michelle Price got a signed book on Monday, presumably from me. Thank you for letting me know. I will let you know, by the way, I'm doing a signing and a speaking engagement. I will speak. Speak, Steve, speak. Good boy. If you're in southeastern Michigan, I'm speaking at Roseville Middle School for the Roseville Historical and Genealogical Society Tuesday. That'd be day after tomorrow, May 19th at 6 o'clock. It is free to get in. I've got a presentation. We're talking about Preston Tucker. And in case you're curious, I will bring books with me. And this is a Preston Tucker book. I'll bring these books with me, along with all my other books, including American Murder Houses. And sure, why not? Chrysler's Turbine Car, the expanded edition. And I will have those with me. And I ordered a whole pile of them specifically because I'll be doing a book signing after the talk. And I like to have books to do that with. And if anybody is here now listening to my voice, can't get themselves to Roseville, Michigan, feel free to email me, Steve at LehtosLaw.com, and say, hey, Steve, I'm interested in one of those books. And I will remind you how much the books are, because American Murder Houses is 15, Tucker is 20, Turbine Car is 25. And yes, each finger represents $5. And I will send you an invoice via Square. You will give me your U.S. mailing address, and I will mail it to you after you pay for it. Everybody's happy. So there you go. I've got plenty of all three books. Prodigal Stranger, how accurate is a Preston Tucker movie? Tucker, the Man in the Dream, Francis Ford Coppola. It's a very popular movie. It did quite well. I believe it is extremely accurate considering it's Hollywood. However, the disappointing thing is the very first thing that appears on screen is a graphic that says, Preston Tucker designed a gun turret for World War II airplanes, which was used quite a bit, and he never got a penny for it. Now, there's three things in that sentence, one of which is true. He did design a gun turret, but his was not used, and so he did not deserve any money for it because it wasn't used. And I actually go into that in depth in the book because that's the most common thing I get asked. I go, well, what about the gun turret? What about the gun turret? Because he was pursued by the government, but they did nothing to him regarding the gun turret. The gun turret was going into World War II. He designed a gun turret and he demonstrated it for the Army. And the Army looked at it and said, it's pretty good, but quite frankly, we don't think you've got the manufacturing capability to make enough of those for us. And he was competing with, like, Bendix and General Electric, and it's, Ypsilanti Tool and Die. So that's, or Tool and Machine, sorry. And was it Machine and Tool? I've seen both. But anyways, other than that, they caught his personality quite well. And I think it's a very good movie. Free the Birds is the only time we ever use professional movers. They unwrapped padded furniture, broke lamps, stole an antique coat rack, and kept our stuff in the place we left for weeks, so we needed to buy new clothes. I had someone once talk to me about a case where somebody had moved, and they put all their stuff into storage, and then they were going to buy a new place, and then so there's going to be a gap in there. And during that gap, the storage company mistakenly thought all this stuff was abandoned and auctioned it all off. I only laugh because it's one of the crazier things I've heard. And this was about 20 years ago. I did not work on the case, but I remember going, what? Oh, boy. Vinny Sluga's father's birthday was last Thursday. Would that have been the 21st? If so, congratulations. Oh, no. What am I saying? 21st, 17. Let's minus this, the 14th. The 14th. There you go. Gray, how is it legal for a car company to obstruct repairs? Repair requires an app subscription and unlock code from the dealership. It's interesting because there's already a mechanism in the law, in the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, that says that companies are not supposed to require you to do anything like that to fix a product. But unfortunately, it requires litigation to get straightened out, and nobody's taking the issue up. The little guy, 17. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, the baddie idea lab. I think I may have gotten that. Best gun in an aircraft is on the A-10 Warthog. Agreed. We actually talked about that a couple weeks ago. I think it's pretty much a given. Chris Harder, can I do a Rule 60 for fraud on the court? What state are you in? And are you in a state or a federal court? Gray, I'll never buy a new car. They're made to be unfixable and they spy on you. Oh, yeah, no, and the spying on you is a big problem, too. Mark Miller, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday, 64F here in the 303. Yo, Steve Lehto, what's up? Old Paint says AC 130 gunship 105 wants a word. Well, but you have to understand that's we're talking in military terminology. A howitzer and a Gatling gun are two different categories. But if you say what's like the most profound, obscure, bizarre thing ever mounted on an airplane, I would tell you the 105. I had a long discussion with a friend of mine recently about the AC 130s. And he's like, "Oh, I'd forgotten all about those." I said, "Oh, no, 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 no. Go to YouTube and type in that you want to watch AC 130 gunship video because they've got the video shot from the gunship and you can see the targets." Fascinating stuff. Chris Harder, SD New York. Yeah, I assume you mean federal court. I'm only licensed in Michigan. And Arts 4014 points out actually it's the best aircraft on a gun is the A-10 Warthog. It's basically a flying gun. Yeah, say 226. The Puff the Magic Dragon, I believe, was one of the earlier of the big old gunships, and that I believe goes back to Vietnam. And they've escalated things a little bit, just a little bit. They've escalated things. The interesting thing, though, is if you legitimately caught an attorney altering a text message and you could prove it, it's the kind of thing that simply you bring it to the court's attention. It should inspire the judge to do stuff on his or her own. Arts 4014 said they mounted a 75 millimeter Sherman tank cannon in the nose of a B-25. I don't think I ever heard about it. Was it an experimental thing? I mean, I can tell you that the Germans, for instance, mounted anti-tank guns on the undersides of the Stuka wings. If you ever read the book Stuka Pilot about Hans Rudel, he talks about shooting at army tanks with a Stuka on the Eastern Front. Old Paint says Puff was the AC-47 DC-3. There was also the AC-119. Yeah, the numbering the numbering scheme evades me, but I know they're all related to each other. They're basically uh, big planes that are designed to carry a whole bunch of armaments into the air, and then they orbit on, or they loiter and they orbit on a target and obliterate stuff. Max's model says the 75 millimeter is a standard issue. Huh. Oil Paints is a B-25J, and I think H had the 75mm cannon from the factory after adopting a field modification. Then somebody else says nope, it was a B-25H. So Gray 999 says we need a car as fun to customize as a Chevy Nova. Oh, that I used to jokingly tell people that the simplest car ever built was the Nova. And that's one of those cars you pop the hood. There's about this much space in there for the engine, and the engine's only this big. You can jam anything in there you want. You got all the room in the world. And like the mid to late 70s Novas were so simple to work on. You could go find one in a junkyard today, pull it out, and have it running today. I mean, it's just it depends on what part of the country and as to what condition the body will be in. But there you go. Andy, New York says, I saw Stars on Ice and was surprised how entertaining it was. All the skaters are so talented and charismatic. Yeah, it's kind of, it's like the Ice Capades, and there's also Cirque du Soleil on ice. I actually saw that one. I was blown away by the stuff they thought they could do on ice that they could actually do. And the music was good too. But think about this. Let's suppose that you spend your entire life trying to get to the Olympics to become an ice skater and perhaps get a gold medal, and you don't. What can you do now? It turns out that that's a second life for people like that. So there you go. David Zerdansky says a man once mounted guns on an AC Cobra replica for a client. Oh, boy. Louis Browning, the Ma Deuce still works well. Stan the man, you just have to worry about the oil leaks in the Chevy Nova. It depends on which engine you've got. Like a Chevy small block by the 70s. Mexican spec, the simplest was the Pinto. They gave you a tool when you bought it new to adjust the headlights and more. Well, the problem though was that a lot of stuff on the Pinto and likewise the Vega were built so cheaply that it was like too simple and too cheap. I mean, I know people who had Novas on the road for years. Belio points out that Nova, if mispronounced, could be Nova, meaning no go. But that's actually a common, like almost like an internet meme, because Nova is actually sold very, very well. And a native Spanish speaker wouldn't pronounce it that way. So. Stan the man says most of the Novas had oil leaks. Okay, I had 3 brothers who had Novas at one time or another. None of them leaked oil. I'm just curious, what's leaking oil if not the engine? I mean, the transmission wouldn't leak oil. Sig226, the best tool is a few dimes to phone for help. Or you can always use a dime as a screwdriver. I learned that riding my brother's mini bike. That's how we adjusted the idle. Oh, boy. SZG says the guys that made the turbine car, Giovanni Savanuzzi and Elwood Engel, would they be the inspiration for Jake and Elwood? I doubt it. Most people don't think of those two as being instrumental, although Elwood Engel designed the body the car is in, or the engine is in. Savanuzzi was involved in turbine stuff, but he doesn't get mentioned a whole lot. Stan the man says 90% of the times valve covers. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm not understanding what you're trying to say. If you're not trying to understand what I'm trying to say, not all engines are the same. And you could get a Nova with a variety of different engines. And so to say that all of the engines in all of the Novas leaked would imply that all the engines that Chevrolet made at that time leaked. And I don't think that that's mathematically possible. Bill McMahon, I had a 74 Nova that was broadsided by a bus and I drove it home. Prodigal Stranger, best tool for a minor auto repair is a butter knife. Or, well, if you're talking about maybe like body work or something, but again, like I said, the dime is the perfect size for a lot of screws. Peter Salix says the transmission can leak fluid if the seals are degraded. Yeah, and we were talking about oil. DePaul, my aunt gave me a 1964 Nova, straight six, very easy to work on. There you go. MD Hofsteve, have you seen videos on the reconstruction of the Edenville and Sanford dams? A little bit, yes. The two dams, the Sanford and Edenville, are two dams in Michigan on the Tittabawassee River that collapsed a couple of years back during heavy storms. And it became a nightmare because they were privately owned. The companies went bankrupt. Everybody blamed everybody for the failure. And of course, downstream of the Sanford Dam was a little town called Sanford that just got inundated. There was a little Fierro museum there, and I believe it got wiped out. I don't know if they saved any of the Fierros or not, but I'd been through that town about 6 months earlier. Neat little town, but it was a mess. And then a lot of people who lived behind the dam had lakefront property, which disappeared when the lake drained. Suddenly their backyard goes all the way out to a tiny little trickle going through there. But they finally have repaired the dams and are building the water back up. So people are getting their lakefront back. Gray 999. I might be putting too many nines in there. After the Northeast states successfully replaced the Amish and local workers with AI data centers, how soon can they replace customers with AI? It reminds me of an old saying, which I'm going to butcher, that a famous native said, that long after you guys have wiped out the forests and killed all the fish and animals, you're going to discover you can't eat your money. So, same thing. Blah, blah, blah. Message retracted. I'm just thinking of the Watergate tapes where it would have something, expletive deleted because somebody swore. Aiden Vellante says, yes, if no one answered you, Ronda Rousey was who won the fight in 17 seconds. It was their signature armbar. Yeah. If you look her up and look at highlights of her fights, she won like her first 5 or 10 fights in a row very quickly with an armbar. And everybody knew she was coming with it. Doesn't matter. She's that good. And then she lost a fight, of course. And that's because she chose, instead of grappling with somebody, she wanted to stand toe-to-toe and box and kick. And the other person kicked her in the head. And you know something, if you got one strength, go with it. Nick Bradley says is a good name for a band, the Sanford Fierro Museum. I am says, I have a butter knife that broke on cold butter. Well, that's where you got to microwave the butter, my friend. Oh, blah, blah, blah says, you answered my question about the Fieros. See, I'm way ahead of you, my friend. I knew that question would occur to you. By the way, 6 minutes till the New York Mets, New York Yankees game. So if anybody wants to turn it on in the background and keep me updated, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, Mark Miller, Ronda got rocked that night. No, like I said, for some odd reason, she's getting a lot of criticism. I mean, she's getting a lot of criticism because all she ever does is judo. Doesn't matter if you win. And so she goes up against, and I forgot the woman's name, but it was a woman who's taller than her, who is known for kicking. She had really good high kicks. And she threw a couple punches, threw a kick, and knocked Ronda out. And Ronda had chosen to stand, toe to toe with her. It's like, no, no, no. You know how to do this. Grab her arm and rip it off. Don Jackson says, happy birthday. I'm not sure to whom, but I appreciate the thought. Max Schmidt is checking in from Germany. Thank you for checking and saying hello. Love your content. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. MHOA's rooting for the Mets because he was raised right, and that is to boo the Yankees. Mark Miller, we have a marginal MLB team here in Colorado. Perhaps you've heard of the Rockies. There are a bunch of teams, including the Detroit Tigers, just playing horribly, horribly. David Peterson says, my brother had a Ford F-250 351 that in the end burned 4 quarts of oil in 5 miles. Maybe it had become a two-stroke. I'm really sorry, but I can't. I can't do political stuff here. So if you're gonna sit here and fire political questions at me over and over and over again, number one, you're taking up valuable real estate on my screen. But number two, I'm not going to answer them anyway. So just don't do that. The little guy, what does it take to get certified to practice law in another state? A lot of famous cases have attorneys from out of state working on them. Absolutely. You can, generally speaking, I'm going to give you the general thing. Generally speaking, you can become admitted pro hoc vice. So let's suppose that someone said, Steve, I'll pay you $1 trillion. I want you to come to Ohio and handle my case. And I'd say, you know something? On principle, I will. The principle being that $1 trillion is worth it. I would then have to find a local attorney in Ohio who is in good standing to go to the court where the case is and file a motion and say, Your Honor, we want Steve Lehto to come in pro hoc vice and work with us on this case. And the judge might ask some questions. How long have I been practicing? Did I go to law school? Did I pass the bar? That kind of thing. When, and the judge would probably grant it unless there's some crazy reason not to. And then I can work on the case. But that person who got me brought in pro hoc vice is going to be like my babysitter. So they'll oversee stuff, and chances are pleadings will get filed with both our names on it. And it'll always say Steve Lehto, licensed in Michigan, admitted Ohio, pro hoc vice. And that way, let's face it, the laws might be very similar, but things like rules, court rules, will be wildly different. And like, I might guess that there's a rule that says something in Ohio. I wouldn't know where to find it in the court rules real fast, but somebody else would. So. And now my chat locked up, but I got it back. Cleverich, hola, Steve. Anon Mouse says, not to be judgmental, but if your 351 burns 4 quarts of oil in 5 miles, you've probably been ignoring a problem for a little while. Cleverich says pro hoc vice. I believe that's the correct spelling, although it could be HOC. I'm not sure. I don't do a lot of Latin. Gray, how far back has Ford preferred outsourced labor? In what setting? Final assembly or componentry? Because I don't believe that is limited to Ford. I believe that all of the big three, which is where I'm located, would be GM, Ford, and Chrysler, do that. But I think the other car companies do as well. And also that stuff changes all the time. Alex, have you ever done that? No, I've never been admitted pro hoc vice. I've seen it happen. I've had it happen on cases of mine where somebody brought in out of state counsel. But Kenneth Bennington says that was Rhonda losing to Holly Holmes. Yeah, I forgot about her name, Holly Holmes. And then Holly Holmes turned right around and lost to somebody else. And it wasn't very well planned who fought who, because it got to the point where a bunch of people are beating each other. It's like, well, who's the best here? So Miko Angel says, could that be the same hoc as an ad hoc? I don't know. Lock Watcher enjoys watching Judge Cedric Simpson in the Michigan courtroom. Yeah, he's good. He's over in the Ann Arbor area. And he does not put up with a lot of guff. He does not. Doctors Watkins checking in, pro hoc vice, and he says it's with an A, is a Latin term meaning roughly for this occasion or for this event. Yes. Yes. You're being admitted just for this, just this one time. And Isaac Bob York confirms it as HAC. RM Guest says, I recently learned I had stage 3 kidney failure. Was never informed back in 2021. Do I have a case against the clinic? Would it be worth it? Thanks. And I can't answer your question. I don't know what state you're in, but the problem, of course, is that medical malpractice cases vary wildly from state to state on a variety of issues, not the least of which is statute of limitations. And here we are 5 years later, 4 years later. And so you're going to need to talk to a local that is in your own state medical malpractice attorney, someone in your state who handles those cases. Because even in Michigan, I would not even begin. I'd be like, I don't know enough about it. I'll refer you to somebody who does that. And so that's what you got to find out. Michelle Price, can you be licensed in more than one state? Yes. I know several people are licensed in several states. It's difficult because some states make you take their bar as opposed to just waving you in. Some states will let you waive in, meaning that you can simply apply and they don't make you take the bar exam and they just look to see if you're okay. And it's called reciprocity between the states. But many states do not have reciprocity with other states. So, and Nailhead says, yeah, the lawyer didn't pass the bar. They're a pro hack. Pro hack. Oh, boy. Oh, Isaac Bob York says ad hoc means for this. Okay, and I can kind of see that. Lock Watcher, wouldn't ad hoc simply mean that they've added a second hawk because another one showed up? Oh, boy. Cleo's mom says lawyers won't sue their golf buddies, the doctors in Southern Illinois. Yeah, but trust me, you can find somebody who will. Guarantee you can find somebody who will. I mean, there's attorneys in Michigan who are famous. They enjoy medical malpractice cases. Jason Abbey, I didn't know you do live streams. Hello from Canada. Yes, I do. I've been doing them on Sundays on and off now for quite some time. And occasionally I'll pop in on a weekday and do one. Usually from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock. And by the way, according to my math, the Mets game should have started right now. Could somebody please occasionally just step in with a box score? What I'm looking for is when AJ Ewing comes to bat, and also if he makes any plays because he's playing center field. At least he was last night. Chris Bedesa, a long list of Latin legal phrases. I know a bunch of them. Most of them aren't that interesting. Post hoc, ergo propter hoc is the fallacy that because something came after something else, it must have been caused by that. Post hoc, ergo propter hoc. After this, therefore, because of this. But they're not that fun. Bob blah blah says Steve started doing live streams Sunday at 1 o'clock. So there's something to do besides watching the Lions lose. Stan the Man says the Ben is not on the Dodge Daytona. Well, he moves every day. Although I feel bad. I feel bad because there was a day last week where I put the hundo very, very carefully balanced it on top of a microphone. And when I walked past it to sit down, it fell. And I didn't know that. And my producers didn't point it out. And when I'm editing, I'm going, what happened to the hundo? And I watched, and sure enough, at the very beginning of the video, I saw it fall. So I put a screen grab at the end of the video, and I apologized. I said, hey, everybody, just to let you know, the hundo fell. It was there. I apologize. I'm sorry. What's with AJ Ewing? Tigerman 99515. He is the stepson of somebody I've known since I was 7 years old. Friend of mine grew up 2 blocks away. Used to play baseball with him all the time. And he was always telling me about how his stepson's playing baseball and is really, really good. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. Because he lives in another state. And then one day he's like, oh, yeah. He just got drafted by the Mets. I'm like, what? And he played 2 years in the minors. Then, oh, hey, he just got called up to the Mets. He's starting Tuesday night. His first night, he hit a triple, stole a base. Not in that order. And got walked a bunch of times. I think he also scored a run and had an RBI. Had a huge night, his first night out. So AJ Ewing. MH08 can't get the Mets in my market. Who's the home field? The Mets. And that's the problem because like last night, the Mets Yankees was like the game of the day or night or week, or whatever they call it on Fox. So I watched it on Fox last night. But today it's on like Hulu, but you got to subscribe. Jason Abbey wants me to wish the Canadians good luck to win, please, and thank you. What are they playing in? But generally speaking, I'll root for the Canadians, and unless they're playing my Finns in something. Yeah, DePaul points out that there is a license plate on my set that says Res Ipsa, which was actually an attorney sent me that. It's a real plate. And that's short for Res Ipsa Loquitur, which is Latin for the thing speaks for itself, which is a Latin phrase, legal phrase, that talks about how some things don't need proof. And the best example is if like somebody's building a skyscraper and a barrel of nails falls off the 10th floor and kills somebody in the sidewalk. They can't defend it by going, well, prove who did it. Who did it? Did you see somebody push it? Barrels of nails aren't supposed to fall off the 10th floor. Doesn't matter how it happened. Who owns the barrel of nails and who is doing the work up there? That's who. MD Hofsty says he's batting at the end. Is he 9th? Carl's Corner, because he played, does he get a baseball card? I'm pretty sure he does. I'm just bummed they don't sell his stuff yet. I went online last night looking. I wanted to buy an AJ Ewing jersey, and everything was bootlegged off of eBay. I don't think any of it was licensed Major League Baseball. Chief FC says, I took Latin in high school, but as a sailor, I found the most important phrases to learn in any language are beer, please, and where is the restroom? Tom Duncan, do you have a photographic memory? No. My memory is more like a reverse Polaroid. I remember it for a little bit, and then it kind of fades away. Jason Abbey says he's talking about the NHL team, the Canadiens. Well, I think you misspelled it. Okay, one of my producers just checked in and said AJ's batting 8th, not 9th. Just making sure that's clear. And they're playing the Buffalo Sabres. Oh no, I don't have any emotional investment in Buffalo. Although didn't they have the player whose last name was spelled Satan? Shaitan? I always wanted to get a Sabres jersey that said Satan on the back, but never did. MH08 says no city should have an NHL team where you can't skate outdoors on natural ice. I often feel that way, but then again, I feel sorry for people like in Southern California or Florida. And it's like, aren't they entitled to go sit in a cold building once in a while, watch hockey? I don't know. S. Gutog says what I described could be a Snapchat memory. A Snapchat memory. Kurt Aspis, why'd you cut your video output in half? Because I discovered it made no difference and it actually hurt me to do twice as many. So if I put up 2 videos one day, they'd get 50,000 views each. I put up one video, it'd get 110. Because YouTube actually, I don't know. It has to do with algorithms. Nailhead, how many semesters of Latin are in a typical law study program? 0. Never took any classes on Latin. You only encountered the sayings when they applied the things you were studying at that time. So, you probably learn 1 or 2 new phrases that mattered per semester. Michelle Price, any summer concert plans? I got a whole bunch. In fact, I just bought tickets to see the Guess Who at Pine Knob. Who? Oh, the Guess Who. Blah, blah, blah. Your producers, whatever are you talking about? Don't you just assume that I've got a cast of thousands helping me out at all times? Oh, boy. Chief FC says saying that you had meant to get a shirt might end with that shirt being sent to you. Do you guys remember America Tonight or Fernwood Tonight with Martin Mull? They used to joke about that all the time. Hey, I heard they got this new thing called a Betamax. I'd really like to check one out, but I haven't got one. The other guy goes, well, maybe you should buy one. He's like, well, no, Betamax, it sounds like a real good company. And clearly trying to get someone to give him one. Isaac Bob York, American Woman. They also will do Bachman Turner Overdrive songs. The 3 I want to hear. Bell Robe says, I've loved the channel for several years. Thank you. Gray 999, does a ceasefire stop the clock on war powers? That's dangerously political. I haven't studied either, so I really can't get into it. Stan the Man says that's the problem with YouTube is the algorithm. No humans involved, no help when you have a problem. Well, I'm talking about the algorithm that pushes videos. And the algorithm is put together by humans. The YouTube's not actually run by an algorithm. There's humans behind it. And they have, in their infinite wisdom, decided that if a person is on YouTube, such as myself, putting up videos, and I put up 2 a day, they split how much they push those videos. But elsewhere, they say, the more views you get, the more we push your video. So which video gets more views? Well, the first one I put up, if I don't put up a second one, then they're pushing it. And that is absolutely true. So Mark Miller reminds us that he's got Rush tickets for sale in Chicago. I seem to recall there's a story behind that. Did you buy more than you need or something? Jason Abbey says the only person that can make lemon law interest, by the way, the Canadians is spelled correctly. Yes, there it is, but I thought it was spelled differently up. I thought you spelled it like the plural of Canadian earlier. Just, as a Canadian person. I could be wrong. I am says, if I'm not mistaken, you learn more Latin in medical school. That very well could be, because I think there's a lot of Latin terms for the for physiology. Gray 999, thanks for being sporting. I had to try. I'm sorry, but politics and religion are the two things I just simply can't touch. It doesn't matter. I could speak the truth, and no one will agree with me. No one. The Great Quijubo asks what I presume is supposed to be a funny question, but it's an interesting argument. Does a legal document hold up in court if opposing party digested said legal document? Okay, this is not as I mean, this is actually a legitimate question here. Let's suppose we came into court and you have a contract that I signed, and you say, Your Honor, I want this court to enforce the contract against Steve Lehto. And the judge looks at me and goes, Mr. Lehto, is that a contract right there? And I go, yes, it is. And the judge goes, did you sign it? And I go, yes, I did. And he goes, the other guy signed it? Yes, he did too. And did you understand it and agree? Yes, I did. The judge goes, let me see the contract. And I quickly grab it, I put it in my mouth, I chew it up, and I eat it. I go, what contract? Now, many people actually go, wait, what happened? Absolutely nothing. The contract isn't the piece of paper. The contract is the agreement between the parties. So if we had an agreement, it was memorialized in the contract. And more often than not, you have to show the contract to somebody simply because one side disputes it. So the question is, does one side dispute the existence of a contract? If not, you don't even need the written contract unless you actually need to get into it to see what the terms are and so on. So there you go. MD Hofsey says that Weird Al is going to be in Grand Rapids on July 3rd. Also, he'll be in Saginaw on the 7th. Is he still touring with Puddles? I know he toured last year with Puddles Pity Party. I heard a very, very good long-form interview with Weird Al Yankovic on the Howard Stern show this past week. Real long interview. They got into all kinds of stuff. Absolutely, absolutely fascinating. I knew a lot of the stories. I heard a lot of the stories, but it's just that guy is so intelligent. And it's funny because he just figured out he could make more money by just being Weird Al and having more fun. Oh, boy. DePaul says back at Catholic high school, everyone had to take 2 years of Latin. And of course, you recall from Dead Poets Society that there are a lot of schools that do teach Latin because, of course, that was a documentary. But the point is that Latin is helpful. It's very, very helpful because you start recognizing the roots of words and so on. And there's a certain logic to it. But on the other hand, you can probably get along without it too. Larry T says they no longer require Latin in medical school. No, but the question is, you probably encounter a lot of Latin terms, right? MD Hofsey says, end of the first, 0-0. Okay, just let me know when AJ is getting close to being up to bat. Ian Gotti never had a YouTube recommendation that said, because you watched Steve Lehto. I don't remember seeing many that say, because you watch this, because you watched that. But what you really want to do on YouTube, especially if you're on a big screen like a monitor on your desk and you have a bunch of recommendations in front of you, look at the ones that you do not want to watch and click on it and go, do not recommend this anymore or not interested. And click on the ones you don't want to watch. And be sure to thumbs up all the videos you like. And that will retune the videos that are presented to you. I know that because I've done it many times. Jason Abbey, tell us a story about any case that a car company didn't do a recall but got sued for defectives. Well, keep in mind that recalls by the federal government in the U.S. are based on safety issues. So if your car has got a defect that's not a safety issue, it can be in every single car that they made, and they don't have to recall it. Now, they may have to fix it under warranty, but they don't have to recall it. And so I've seen cases where the manufacturers fight over whether or not something is a safety issue or not. And I, for instance, thought the dual clutch transmissions in the Fords were, I thought, a safety issue. You're driving on the road and the car is shifting funny, especially when you're trying to accelerate and get on the freeway or something. That seems like a safety issue to me. And they took the position, no, it's not a safety issue. You can always pull over to the side of the road and shut it off. And so, that's one big gray area. RM Guest, remember seeing Puddles when he was on AGT. That's where I discovered him also, but I later went and saw him in concert, and he is, and you can find a lot of his videos on YouTube. Puddles Pity Party, spectacular performer. I've seen in the last 5 years probably 50 or 60 shows. I'd put him in the top five. Top five. Absolutely. He's such a talent. Blah blah blah. Do you know why thumbs down don't register on YouTube? YouTube counts them. They just don't show them anymore. And I believe they did that because some people would just thumbs down something just because they're trying to cause harm. I don't know if that's true or not. YouTube does not explain much of what they do, but they just did say a while back, we're going to remove the visible icon that shows others your thumbs downs. But I mean, I can see the data on all my videos, and I can tell how many thumbs up per thumbs down I get, and so on. The Prodigal Stranger says my old Dodge had bad paint. They gave me $750 to get it repainted. Was it cash or a coupon? And second, was that one with the bad primer from like the mid 70s to the late 80s, where they didn't prime cars for a while and the paint would come off in sheets? Mark Miller, weren't the double clutches in Focuses? Yes, and Fiestas, I think it was. I am right, you are wrong, because YouTube took away the thumbs down count. Well, they just made it so it's not visible to other people. It's visible to creators like me. I can tell you exactly how many thumbs downs I get on any video. John Zabek, clutch, baby. That's either a dual clutch or a double clutch. Gray, how do I find a Nova in a junkyard? Well, sadly, I suspect most of them are scrapped now. And a lot of junkyards actually, if a car's been there for too long, they just crush it. Blah, blah, blah. Do you get thumbs downs? Yeah, I get a few. Everybody does. The funny part is people tell you thumbs downs actually help you better than not doing anything. But I don't care. Carl's Corner, Steve only does one video a day for money reasons. Well, I want to get views. I get more views with one than I did with two. Why would I work twice as hard for half the result or less than the result? Yeah, Jason Abbey says Puddle's an amazing singer. Everyone should check him out, to be honest. He covers a lot of songs. Let's give him some love. And he also does renditions of songs where he'll take a happy song and make it sad or vice versa. And he'll also take the lyrics of one song and put it over the music of another song. I personally, my favorite song by him, I do like his version of Chandelier, but I like his version of On the Nickel by Tom Waits. Check that out. Alex says, I thought both up and down counted as a response. Yes. And ups help probably a little more than downs, but both ups and downs count more than no response. That's the funny part. Oh, Jason Abbey says the post was meant for everybody. Yeah, I read it out loud. I agreed with it. Scooters Pops, would or if Weird Al and Puddles be at Saginaw, would they be at the Doubt Event Center? I'm guessing. I don't know. I didn't look at that one yet. So someone here is dropping the ball because I've just been notified by my producer that a Yankee apparently lined out to center fielder AJ Ewing. So he was in play. He wasn't batting, but he's the one who got the put out on the last out of the inning. So now they'll be coming back up to bat pretty soon. Thank you. Tigerman99515 haven't been to a pick apart for years. Are they still around? I hear they are. I haven't been to one in a while. I went to a couple in California with my brother and was just astounded at what was there because of the lack of rust. Angels Don't Fall said he had a Ford Ranger that had the exact tires, code, and everything for the Ford Explorer situation. They said it wasn't an Explorer, so it wasn't covered. After a rollover, the truck was, in fact, smashed from the roll. I had an Explorer. I forgot which one it was, but I had an Explorer. I had 90,000 miles in the tires. And I got a letter from Ford saying, yeah, your tires are being recalled. Take this coupon to any, dealer of the tires and get a free set. I'm like, thank you. Image Doc Ray, any thoughts on the Parker, Colorado judgment of $24 million? I saw the headlines, did not read the story yet. I will. Kurt Aspa says, I prefer 2 videos a day. Well, should I make a second one? But the problem is it'll eat into my first one. Gray, is it true the average American unknowingly commits 4 to 5 federal crimes a day? No, it's not true. That's something they say just to point out that there are a lot of things that are federal offenses, but I've often heard that. I go, quick, name 4 you committed to. And they're like, I don't know. MD Hofsky says, hey, I did not know you wanted defensive plays. Well, anytime that AJ is going to show up in the box score, presumably when he's at bat, but likewise, if he's involved in a play. Nailhead, is your lawyer dog also your producer? Yes. It's so hard to get them to signal me without barking, though, Janie Seacrest likes Puddle's version of The Sound of Silence. Yeah, he does a good version of that, too. 116356 I pushed 80K out of a set of tires once. Oh, I've done over 80,000 on a set of tires more than once. Because at the time, it's all highway driving. Just tons and tons of highway driving. Yeah, Dan Boyd, how do those tires look? They're getting worn. I was about to buy a new set. Lewis Browning put the second video on the second channel. I could do that. Sig226, was the rollover situation a fault of the tires, or that most people at the time were transitioning over to SUVs? Well, there was a problem with the belts delaminating in the tires. There were some tires the belts delaminated. And if they delaminated at the wrong time, it got real ugly real fast. But there are people out there who drive SUVs as if they're in a slot car, and they shouldn't. Stan the Man says, it's a shame you put on 90,000 miles before you got the free tires. Well, no, I got my money's worth out of them. Cleo's mom, I drove 25,000 on a donut once. At the gas station I worked at, there was a woman who came in one time and she had a flat tire. So we had sent a tow truck out to help her, and we changed the tire for her, and she got a space saver put on. And the tow truck driver, was not me, said, we'll take the tire back to the gas station. We'll plug it for you. Come by. It'll be like $6-8. Pick it up. We'll put it back on for you. You'll be good to go. And we saw her driving by the gas station several times on that donut because she lived near the station. And then one day she called and she goes, yeah, my donut's flat. True story. Nailhead says, unexplained fires are a matter for the courts. Canyonero. One of the greatest joke songs ever written was a commercial, joke commercial that ran inside a Simpsons episode about the Canyonero. Lewis Browning, I've seen a car with 4 temporary tires. Really? Where'd you get them all? Johnny Z says Firestone 500s had a big recall in 1977 or thereabouts. My mother got 400. I seem to recall that, the Firestone 500 scandal. MD Hofsky says end of the second in the New York game, still 0-0 for the Subway. AJ is due up on the top of the inning. MH08 now says, just remembered I've got an ESPN account, but it's not activated. I'm going to go try. John Michael Karma just replaced a set of tires with 22,000 miles, but they're 16 years old. When I bought my Viper, I bought my 99 Viper in 2020, so it was 21 years old. And it came with the original tires that had 4,000 miles on them. And so I drove it home with those tires on it. And the very next time I drove it more than a mile or two, because I had to show it to my friends, was I drove it down to Mark Lieberman's Nostalgic Motoring, where he put a brand new set of 4 tires on it for me. And I've now had those tires for a few years. And he's pointed out, he said, Steve, are you due for another set of tires? I'm like, I've only put 5,000 or 6,000 in the last ones. He's like, yeah, but how many years? And I'm like, oh, that's right. I don't want to be that guy. Fred Blowers, have you ever made a video you were about to upload but changed your mind because you thought it was dumb? Yes. How do people know this stuff? Yes. I've actually shot a video and I'm sitting there looking at it going, I don't know. And what's weird is I put up videos that I was about to pull and I'm like, no, I'll put it up. And it does well. And I'll be honest, the first time I did a video where I said I got pulled over, I was so on the fence about that. I'm like, should I put this up? Should I not put it up? And of course, it got hundreds of thousands of views. So when the second time, when I got pulled over, my first thought was, oh, another video. It's just I don't know the ending yet. James Milano, hi, Steve from Puebla, Mexico. Ghost Rider Trucker says, just watching the background while I upload my own videos. There you go. We're comrades of sort, right? Carl's Corner. Steve remembers the Firestone 500 because his big wheel needed it to replace. How young do you think I am? Oh, yeah, the Firestone 421 scandal. Yeah, Firestone. It's sad because Firestone actually had a history with Ford that went back to like when the guys were like, golf buddies. So, Silent Hangus, ever heard of the Melonheads out of Ottawa County? The Melonheads? No, I've heard of the Lemonheads, but that's a different band, I'm sure. It's a shame about Ray. Janie Segrist, have you ever gotten to respond to a question during live and had second thoughts about it so you didn't say it? No, unfortunately, once I start talking, I'm committed to it. That's the problem with live anything. Steve G's having fun. Lewis Browning, my 1971 Yamaha still has the 1970 date stamped front tire. Well, keep in mind that the parts are made long before the vehicle's assembled. And so it's not uncommon to find date coded stuff on a vehicle, whether it's a motorcycle or a car, that could predate the model year, especially when model years often come out earlier. I mean, you'll find them putting out 2027 model cars in 2026, and they're being built right now. They might have parts date coded to 2025. So, and DePaul points out, we'll do it live. I mentioned before, it's so sad, but Bill O'Reilly apparently has got a show now called Let's Do It Live. And so he's embraced it. But before he embraced it, it was funny. Yeah, I'm right. You are wrong. They released them in the May the prior year. That's the weird thing to me is the model years, how the model year creep has gotten to the point now where the car can be released where it's clearly going to be more than 6 months old by the time it hits the model year. Doesn't make any sense. Tom, I've driven on 40-year-old tires. Nailhead says the downsized GMC bodies were late to be released as 1984, so they just came out in April or May and called them 85s. Kevin Lawrence says he saw the Magnus and Moss Warranty Act spelled out recently in a notification, and always thought it was the Magnus and Moss Warranty Act. Yeah, no, it's Magnuson Moss. And Magnuson's oddly spelled because it's only got one S. It sounds like it should have two. Magnuson dash Moss. And that, of course, is a federal statute having to do with consumer warranties. Image Doc Ray, in your radio days, did you ever have to sell your own radio ads? No. Thank God. I don't like the idea of selling anything. I would hate the idea. People who sold radio were a whole different breed. And like I had a brother once who sold life insurance door to door. I'm not making that up. Cold calling life insurance. But other than that, selling radio ads. It's tough. It's really tough. So I never did. I'm glad I didn't. Just checking my notes. I only laugh because obviously why would I need notes to talk to this? Roxanne, good afternoon, Steve. Good afternoon, Roxanne. Where have you been? Mini driver. I drive a 2004 Mini Cooper S with 295,000 miles. I need to make a 5,000 mile trip to go over the top. And remember the old ones where the tires were like this big? There's one of those in my neighborhood. We used to walk by and just kind of look at it like, is that thing real? Steve G's got a 72 Schwinn Varsity with original tires. I had a Varsity. I'm not sure what year my Varsity was. And then I got a Raleigh Grand Prix right around 74 or 75. Audio advisory. Thank you for the story about your brother and the insulators. Yeah, if you don't know, I've got a second channel called Steve Lehto's second channel. And on it, I often tell stories that just have nothing to do with anything. And I told the story about the time my brother, who's passed away now, had an injury up north on vacation with the family. And what a wild story that was, and how imprinted it is in my mind, because it happened when I was probably in first or second grade. And now I remember it so vividly. So DePaul says Howard Stern disliked doing live ads in his early career. I had no problem doing live ads, but I don't remember getting that many of them. But it's not uncommon with a popular radio personality where an advertiser will say, hey, I'll do the ad. But, the DJ so-and-so has got to actually read it and make it sound like he likes the product. And so I do the ads like once a month, maybe, on my main channel at the end, where I warn you it's coming. So, don't worry about it. And then I do ads only for products I've tried and that I've liked, and that if somebody thinks, hey, he's acting like he likes that product. Yeah, I did. That's the only reason I'm doing the ad. I've turned down more ads than I've done. So for every ad you've seen me do, I've turned down 2 or 3 ads. I have. And I think I'm the only person on YouTube who can say that. The great Quidjubo, if you had a teenage daughter and needed to get a car for them, what would you recommend they get? I'm talking like 16 to 17 years old. Well, what state are you in? Are you in a snowy state? Because if you're in a snowy state, I'd recommend something that handles snow well. Ford Explorer, maybe, or a Subaru of some sort. Because they don't need a hot rod. And they're probably not driving a whole lot in terms of like needing, exceptionally good mileage, but you start thinking about safety, reliability, and them getting stuck someplace. Johnny Z, I had a Schwinn Continental. Yeah, Schwinn Continental was a sister bike to the Schwinn Varsity, which were both lower end Schwinn bikes. NZ Kiwi NZ, good morning from New Zealand. Thank you for checking in. Say, will you ever do VPN ads? I've never been approached by a VPN provider. The Great Quidjabo, Southern California for the car for a teenage daughter. Yeah, then four-wheel drive's not as important. In Michigan, it is. But you also want to think safety, you know? So a lot of times, and I hate to say this, but some people find cars cute. Oh, I like that little cute car. Yeah, a little cute car when it runs into a big truck ain't so cute anymore. So, you want the kids to understand that, yeah, you can get yourself a real nice car later with your own money. Right now, we're buying a safe and reliable car. Jason Brindamar says a 2012 Ford Escape four-wheel drive. Roxanne says, I can tell you like the products in those ads. I hope so, because I'm not a good actor. Freebirds rides a Schwinn Meridian. I'm not familiar with it. Is that a road bike or is that a mountain bike? Josh Holman, good to be here. Good to see you, my friend. MHOA is still working on activating the ESPN account, but it's a lot of jumping through hoops. Chief FC, how much sponsor stuff have you just thrown away? You know what's funny is I've had a couple things that I can't say. I wish I could. I actually had somebody send me something that weighs about 100 pounds, and it's horrible. It's sitting in my basement right now. It'll probably never leave the basement. It'll be down there forever. It'll become part of the Earth's crust. So I have to carry it upstairs and figure out how to get the garbage man to take it. And I've had a couple other big items like that. Martin Godinez, good morning from Los Angeles. Thanks for checking in, my friend. Scott Marlowe, truck driver here, longtime lover of your show. What shirt would you want that you don't have? Okay, first of all, somebody answered below you. Make sure it's a double XL. I'm not begging for shirts, but if you send me a shirt that doesn't fit, I can't do much with it. So make sure it is an XXL. I'm huskier than I look. But here's the important thing. If you're not sure if I wear the shirt, ask first, and I'll tell you. But if you have a shirt for a place, city, state, town, landmark, tourist trap, something like that, absolutely. A school, especially a real school, colleges, high schools, junior highs, I don't care. I wore a shirt on camera last week from Calumet High School. Calumet High School is a very small school in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I love that community. And I got the shirt. Now I wear it. Businesses, I've had truck drivers send me shirts that have the name of the truck driving company on it. I'll wear that. Absolutely. So, and by the way, no one has ever paid me to wear a shirt on camera, and I would not take money to do that. I don't want anybody to ever think that those are advertisements. They're not. And so I'll admit, I wore a shirt in a video that I just shot that goes up tomorrow morning, and it's for a company, and I saw their product at a fair I went to a couple weeks ago, and the product was good, and I said, I'd like to buy a shirt. He said, okay. And after I bought the shirt, I gave him my card and said, watch for it. It'll be on camera in a couple weeks. Really? I'm like, yes. Like, oh, okay. But I'd already paid for it. So. Steve is big boned. Yes, big boned. I'm very tall, too. Chief FC, what is that ring for? It is decorative. I talked about it last week. It's on this finger, so it's not something I can't talk about. Occasionally, it's on this finger. I get bored and I move it from finger to finger. But it is formerly a Morgan silver dollar, and I met the guy who makes these. It's seamless, and it's got Morgan on the inside. So heads is on one side, tails is on the other side, referring to inside outside. And I met the guy who makes these, and I put it on. I thought, it kind of matches the watch, doesn't it? Black and silver. So there you go. Even though it's not black, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it's just a decorative single. Bring MD Hofsty, he just singled to right field. Bingo. AJ Ewing's on base. Okay. Thank you. Keep me updated on his base running. He steals a lot of bases. Scooters Pops. I've got probably 5 U of M shirts. I've also got 1 or 2 Michigan State shirts, and I've even got some Ohio State shirts. I've told people I will wear an Ohio State shirt on camera 51 weeks out of the year. I won't wear it the week of U of M OSU. I just won't. But and I have people go, "Oh my God, Steve, look, it's a rivalry that's basically just football." But you know, U of M's a great school. Michigan State's a good school. Ohio State's a good school. These are all good schools, you know. And so I've met people who went to Ohio State. I've met people at Michigan State. I had dinner last night, and one of the people at the table, Michigan State grad, and you know, that's fine. So I don't care what school it is, you know. Tiger Man says, living in hot country, you keep the old t-shirts and make them into tank tops. John Zablik, have you ever been to Detroit? Are you asking me? I've been in Detroit like 3 times in the last week. Paul Thomas Harris, did your parents shop at Sears in the Husky Boy section? No, actually, as a child, I was so skinny. I look at pictures of myself and I'm like, oh, I look sickly. I'm underfed. I was really, really skinny. He stole second. That's what you get for overturning that call yesterday. I'm speaking to the umpires. He is fast. He stole 70 bases last year in the minors. 70. And he kept them. It's one of the reasons he had a triple the other night is because he's so fast. For most other people, it would have been a double. Image Doc Radio, you have any of the super cool in and out vintage hot rod shirts? I've got 2 or 3, but the problem with in and out shirts is they got a huge image on the back and a smaller logo on the front. So quite often you can't tell what the logo on the back should be, although occasionally they change the logo in the front a little bit to match. But 1163562 says, I'm only an MSU fan when they play OSU. There's a lot of that going around. DD's my hero says the Yankees are up 1-0. Well, yeah, okay. Still early. Dan Boyd, Ohio State didn't accept me. Well, sometimes they don't. Scooters Pop says, speaking of watches, I saw a few videos of a Canadian teacher that wears nice watches. Are they expensive watches? And if so, how does he afford them? Teachers generally don't make a lot of money, at least not to have like a watch collecting habit. But I've been looking at another Breitling and I'm like, I can't justify buying a third one. That's what I said when I was looking at a second one. Mustang MG05, what farm team did he play for? He came up through the Mets. If you look at go to the Mets website, look up the roster and click on AJ Ewing, and it'll show his stats for all the previous teams. And I think he played for 3 different teams in their system, but he's doing very, very well. MH08, happy for your friend's kid. If the Mets are anything like the Rockies, he'll be traded by the end of the season. You know, I have such mixed feelings about that. You know, because some teams, they get good players and just sell them, trade them. Some teams, you know, try to buy a good roster. Tiger Man 99515 with 5 boys. Did your mom lose any fingers putting dinner on the table? 6 boys, first of all. I had 5 brothers, which makes it 6. But yeah, it was often a feeding frenzy at dinner time. Oh, he got stranded. Benj and Singer both popped out, and Bichette grounded out. Okay, well, he's got the hit. That'll help the average. Prodigal Stranger says, yeah, I said the same thing about, do you need another watch? All the way up to 14 wristwatches and 4 pocket watches. Pocket watches are cool, but to me, they're just too impractical. I mean, they're cool, but impractical. John Michael Karma, did Al Kaline ever endorse batteries? Al Kaline is one of the greatest names of all time. And he was such an old school hero, Detroit Tiger, played for the Tigers in the 60s, early 70s, and he played his entire career with the Tigers. Just old school. He was synonymous with the Tigers. And he played back in the day when I believe he had a job in the wintertime, like working like at a grocery, or not like a hardware store or something. But he was, and I understand he's just the nicest guy on earth. I never met him. I saw him play a bunch of times. Good. The guy was just a machine. And, but yeah, Alkaline, Alkaline. Kurt Aspis, do you ever wish you had a sister? It's interesting. That thought never occurred to me till later, but I don't know. I've heard stories, and like a very good friend of mine is one of 6 boys, just like me. But he has a sister also. So I've talked to him about it. And it didn't seem to make that big of a difference in his life. So I don't know. Paul Thomas Harris, AJ, young man, 21 years old. Yes. He got drafted right out of high school. So none of this college ball thing. DePaul in Little League had an Al Kaline model glove. Wow. Scooters Pops thinks that the Canadian teacher with the watches runs a private school. Cleo's mom and a few others have pointed out that if you carry a cell phone, you don't need to carry a watch. But the thing is, a cell phone, you still got to pick it up and look at the screen. It's not in your hand. Arts 4014, have you seen what's going on with that Swatch AP collaboration pocket watch? Are you talking about the riot they had at Somerset Mall yesterday? There was a riot at a mall where they're supposed to unveil some new Swatch watch. My first thought was, since when is Swatch relevant? And then I thought, is this a publicity stunt? But the police got called, so I don't know. But no, I've only seen pictures in the news. Haven't studied it closely. Tigerman 99515, didn't Breitling make the first aviator watch? Well, they're embraced by aviators. I'm not sure if they made the first aviator watch, but the Navitimer, which is their classic style, goes way, way back, and a lot of aviators like it. But I believe they were instrumental in making the automatic watches. Like this watch, I don't wind it. Wearing this watch, it winds itself. And so as long as I wear it every single day, it just keeps running forever. No batteries. And I think they were instrumental in the development of that in the old days. G. Harley Davidson, does Sisu ever die? As a concept, no. And as a guy in a movie, no. In case you don't know, Sisu, of course, is a Finnish word. Doesn't translate well into English, but it talks about being tough, having guts, perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. But there's a movie called Sisu, and then there's a Sisu 2, which are spectacular movies. Spectacular. And it's not often we have a movie where the protagonist and everybody in it are Finns. except for the bad guys who we don't care about them because they're bad guys. Mark Miller does it keep good time. What the Breitling? Relatively. Every now and then I've got to move it a minute or two. Not that often. Steve G. I'm looking for my baseball glove from the 70s to see who signed it. I remember mine was autographed by somebody really weird. And back then there was no internet. So I asked my friends, and somebody goes, "Yeah, I think that's a professional softball player." I'm like, because I bought the glove because it doesn't fit well. But Chief FC, if you have to wear your watch every day, what happens when you switch to the second or third watch? You own a watch winder. It's a little box about this big, and you take your watch and you put it in a thing and you put it on there, and it goes like this, and it winds your watch for you periodically, keeps it wound. DePaul, I just watched Sisu 2 Revenge a few nights ago. Did you enjoy it? You have to understand, both movies ended perfectly. And I was almost brought to tears by the closing scene in Sisu 2. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but our hero is working on his house, and a bunch of strangers approaches him. And how he reacts and how they react is so perfectly Finnish. If you told me that movie was not written by a Finn, I wouldn't believe you. And it's a scene that no Hollywood director would have ever thought, "Oh, here's how we'll end the movie." But it was a perfect ending to the movie, and it was so beautiful. And I've talked to people who've seen the movie now, and I have friends who are Finnish, and I've talked to them about it. And like, wasn't it ending great? Like, yes, that was perfect. Blah blah blah. Who was Wilson and who was Spalding? Are they baseball players? Wasn't there a baseball player named Spalding? But I always just assumed there were companies that made stuff. Belio says that there's YouTube channels that suggest you can get your watch serviced every 6 to 8 years. I've never had mine serviced. And my Navitimer, now this is a Montbriant Olympus. It's a Breitling, but my other Breitling Navitimer I've had for 20 years. I've never had it serviced. I probably should have it serviced, but I just haven't. Edge 5218, does anyone really know what time it is? Anyone? Of course not. Kurt asked us, how much does the CRL get paid? You wonder if she'll ever run out of ideas. The first half of that's confidential. The second half of that is I don't think she will, because we give her ideas. And so I talked to her about a week or two ago about it. And she said, I got a whole list of them still. So Fred Blower says Sisu could have ended better because the woman at the bank could have been the woman from the truck. But isn't the woman from the truck the one who rolls up to that checkpoint with the army tank? And there's a Nazi hanging from the barrel. And somebody goes, where are the others? And she goes, in hell. You couldn't then take her from that scene and put her at the bank. The cool part about the bank scene, besides what he said, was the fact that the dog was in the sidecar. That was cool. Arts 4014 says servicing a watch like changing the oil in a car minimizes wear. The problem, of course, is that you can't just go down to the corner and find somebody who will service a Swiss watch. I know there are people out there. I know there are people who do that. In fact, I was talking to somebody recently who said that he knew a watchmaker, and he said, I think I can get someone to work on your watches for you. I might look into that. Bob Bong's checking from Niles, Michigan. Niles, Michigan. Cleo's mom, we're talking about a movie called Sisu, Sisu, Sisu. It's a Finnish movie. Came out a few years ago. I love the movie. It's got some gory stuff in it. It's like a cross between John Wick and Rambo, but it's set in Finland. And I'm from my ancestry is Finnish. So there you go. But I loved the movie. And I also loved the follow-up to it, Sisu 2. I saw both of them at the theater. And sadly, when I saw Sisu at the original, at the theater, I was one of like 4 people in the theater. And we're all like, yes, yes. Oh, boy. Tom 06, as an F&I guy, you didn't buy the preventive maintenance? Oh, I had to get the true code on it. Chief FC says anyone who didn't watch this before, that's on you if you didn't like the spoilers. Well, no, I didn't ruin anything there, but I agree with you. Good. Isaac Bob York. TJE just watched the Landman series. I've not seen this. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I apologize. Lock Watcher, neighbor movie night last night. We watched The Jackal with Bruce Willis and Richard Gere. That's been a while. I've seen it, but it's been a while. I seem to recall that I liked it, but that's, like I said, been a while. Yeah, Edge 5218. What are your opinion on Seiko watches? Well, the thing is, there are companies that make watches, Seiko, Citizen, and so on. And the funny part is that electric watches are like 1,000,000,000 times more accurate than a mechanical watch. And, a watch basically serves 2 functions. It tells you the time, and it's a piece of jewelry. You're wearing it. So I don't wear it for other people to look at it. I wear it so that I can look at it because I want to wear a watch. And I've had millions of watches in my life. I've had digital watches. I've had Iron Man watches and running watches, and I've had the GPS watches, the Fitbits, and all that stuff. And if I'm going to put a watch on my arm and I'm looking at my hand periodically to see what time it is, I think, well, I like looking at this watch. So to me, that's a plus. So that's what I do it for. But I mean, I've known people who are like, yeah, but they're not accurate. It's like, it's accurate enough. My watch shows 2:43 and my big clock says 2:43 and the computer says 2:42 for some odd reason. Close enough for government work. The little guy says last year was in Miami Beach and somehow had a hard time finding someone who could put a battery in my Movado. I've actually walked into a very, very fine jeweler's wearing an expensive watch that took a battery, and they're like, no. And I think it's if you didn't buy it there. Prodigal Stranger is upset with the way I pronounced a Japanese name. I don't know. Belia Watch Service, maybe you could do a collaboration with Wristwatch Revival or Weekend Watch Repair. There's a guy, I forgot his name, who takes apart watches like this in every last little piece, cleans them, fixes them, tunes them, replaces what's necessary, and puts it all back together again. And then he puts it on that device that tells how accurate it is. And I watched that, and to me, it's like watching surgery. On the one hand, I'm fascinated. On the other hand, I'm freaked out. It's like, can he really put that back together again? DePaul says, I've got the original Omega Moonwatch. Mitch 05, what's your thoughts on Shinola? I'm not a big fan. I think it's silly they named a company that. But they do make watches. They're very expensive, and from what I've seen, I've never been tempted to buy one. Let's put it that way. Tiger Man and Joshua Gannon say that could be wristwatch revival. I'm referring to. Does the guy have an accent? He speaks English, but with an accent, like perhaps he's in Switzerland. Jason Brindamauer says, in case you didn't see it, I'm seeing a lot of new names in the comments. That's great news for your channel. Oh, no, I've noticed that. I appreciate that very much. So, like, say, not sure if say, has been here before, but KCO and Timex are good enough for 99% of the population. You know, and like I said, if I go running or biking, I leave this at home and I slap on I think it's a Timex, and it's just an all-purpose, all-weather. It can get soaked. I could swim with it if I wanted to. It'd go underwater. If I smashed it, I'd go, oh darn, I gotta buy another watch. Like $20. Tiger Man says that dude is Dutch, but that still could be the guys. If it's English with an accent. Jimmy Be Good, what's going on over here, guys? What's the word? Tim Nossum. Okay, so Shinola was the name of a company that made shoe polish. They went out of business, and apparently they abandoned the name, or somehow some company in Detroit came up with the name Shinola, and they revived it, and they make stuff, and a lot of it is luxury stuff, including watches. They're making bicycles at one point. They've got a hotel in Detroit, the Shinola Hotel, but I never quite understood why you name your company after a shoe polish company. I don't know. MHOH says was able to get the game streamed on WCBS. MD Hofsey says AJ is on a full count. AJ's back up again. Oh, AJ just walked. There we go. Hey, a walk's as good as a hit. Yeah, and so Jimmy Be Good points out there's a saying that people used to say about Shinola. And I've actually heard people say that that's why they chose the name. And I'm like, what? Okay. I am says they are allergic to titanium. Is that possible? I mean, I suppose, but you're not allergic to Inconel or aluminum or anything? Jason Brindamauer says he used his Timex Indiglo watch for some surreptitious viewing under the covers with his girlfriend. And when she caught him, she made him take the watch off. Oh, there's an ad for Indiglo. MD Hofsey says that the next batter are grounded out. Says 3 left on base, including AJ. So we are following AJ Ewing for those of you who were not here earlier, because a good friend of mine I've known for over 50 years. That is his stepson. And I've been following his career, and he just got in the major leagues last week. Say Oz says, well, what about the titanium dioxide, many pills, and even toothpaste? Tom 06 says, I put my nice watches away and just use the Apple Watch now. Customers do not like looking at an expensive watch while signing up for a deal. I've often wondered about that. You go into some dealerships, and they're all casual now. Polo shirt, khakis, one of those pucka shell bracelets, and a Timex watch. And then the old school guy comes out and he's got like a big gold pinky ring that looks like it's the size of a golf ball. And he's got a gigantic gold Rolex, and he's got like 6 rings over here. And he's the guy, I only talk to you about this. And you're like, I'm not sure. I mean, I can see each one of those working with the right person. Tom 06, we wear shorts and polos. Shorts? That's real low key. Johnny Z. Fradley, remember Chocola, chocolate beverage? That does not ring a bell. Connor Thomas, I bet Steve has more followers than AJ. Except the difference is I've been making videos on YouTube since AJ was 11. Different thing. He can hit a fastball. I can't. Yeah, Alex points out that it could mean you're paying too much for the cars if the guy you're talking to is wearing 9 pounds of gold on his hands. Oh boy. Lock Watcher, what are car keys? My Jetta has a button. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. My Cobra's got both, and I've got an Explorer that just has a button. And I like car keys. I do. Prodigal Stranger, he can hit a baseball, but can he win a lemon law claim? I suspect that he'll be able to afford a better car than the average person. MD Hofsey says, I find that Yahoo Sports game tracker is faster than Stream Sports at times. I do know that I looked at I was trying to find where the game was, what channel it would be on. So I went to the New York Mets homepage, and it goes, you can watch the game here, or it goes for a play-by-play feed, and you click, and it just scrolls through it and go, pitch, ball, 0-1, or 1-0. Pitch, strike, 1-1. And literally, there's somebody, probably AI, but there's information being fed literally moment by moment into a system where if you've got no other access, you can watch it right there. What's this coming to? Say, ever owned a Lincoln or Mercury product? No, I never have. I mentioned that last week, oddly. Never known anybody who did, I don't think. And Lockwatcher points out the key fobs often do contain a hidden key, just in case there's other failures that can get you into the car, get the car started or something. Tigerman 99515. What's the minimum salary in the MLB? I don't know, but it's pretty large. I was surprised when somebody told me how many players there have been since day one who played professional baseball. The number's not as large as you'd think. So just to make it to the major leagues and get an at bat. And I remember when I was a little kid, a friend of mine mentioned that his dad played baseball. I'm like, really? Yeah, my dad played baseball. He played baseball. I said, who did he play for? Well, he played for, and I forgot who the team was. I'll look it up later and remind me in a week or two. And I never quite knew to believe the story. I'm not going to walk up to some guy and go, excuse me, your son told me. So years and years later, I was thinking about that. And I remembered the kid's name, and it was an unusual last name. And I remembered what team he said his dad played for. And I knew roughly what time that would have been. And it turns out he did. And he played in the major leagues, I think, for like 3 games or 4. Like, he got called up at the very end of the year, got into a couple games, and because of that, he is now part of the stats of Major League Baseball. And that's all that matters. He was a major league ball player. Joshua Gannon says $780K is the minimum for Major League Baseball. $780,000 to start. I don't know. I could go bag groceries. 780. Oh, I don't have to work the whole year though, right? I get a couple months off. I I guess. MD Hofsty points out that is in fact for the whole season of an active roster, but it'd be prorated for the number of games you're on the roster. Chris Bulldog, anyone else remember Tom Selleck trying to play baseball? Yeah, in fact, that's become a big thing in Detroit. Tom Selleck always wore a Detroit Tigers baseball cap on that TV show he was on, Magnum PI. And he did actually, was it in a spring training game or something, or an exhibition game? But he actually went up to bat. I think he struck out. But they actually have a Tom Selleck Day at Tigers Comerica Park every year. So if you only play 3 games, Tom 06, what you would do is you divide that in the number of games that they have. They get you a fraction. You multiply that by 780. And there you go. Joshua Gennis is very well done in that pronouncing my last name. Very, very few get that. I have to tell you, somebody sent me a note yesterday that said, Steve, you should do all of your books as audiobooks and you need to read them. And I said, well, it's a lot of work and I'm not sure what interest there is. And somebody goes, and the same guy goes, well, I bought your book, American Murder Houses, which is available as an audiobook. And he said, I listened to it. I said, okay. And he goes, and the guy mispronounced your name. And I said, how do you say it? And he goes, Lehto. And I said, well, and he goes, but the Canadian robot lady says Lehto. And I said, and I say Lehto also, and they're both correct. Finns, authentic Finns who speak Finnish will correct me if I say my name's Steve Lehto. They go, oh, Steve Lehto? Lehto? And you have to pronounce the H. I can't even do that. So when the Canadian robot lady signed on to be my announcer, I said, pronounce it Lehto. And the first time she said it, she said Lehto. I said, no, you got to pop the T. Lehto. 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 She's okay, Lehto. So she got it right. And then when the guy is reading the book, he apparently looked it up and found out the proper pronunciation is Lehto. And he didn't hit it that hard, but he said, American Murder Houses by Steve Lehto. He says it close enough. So they're both right. Everyone's right. Stan the Man says, funny, I'm viewing comments approximately 2 minutes or 3 before you even say anything. Well, it depends on where I am here. Lockwatcher, why should we read your book if you won't? Trust me, writing it's harder than reading it. Isaac Bob York says, yes, that is the right sound. I should get a Finn with a real good Finnish accent to introduce a couple of my videos. But say everything in Finnish, except for Lehto's Law, but pronounce the Lehto properly. Cleo's mom's sister is on Prime. Dang, I boycott Amazon. Yeah, it'll be available anyplace else that you can rent videos. You know, Blockbuster. Image Doc Ray, it is correct to say Finns with 2 N's for referring to people from Finland. 2 N's. Belio, Jiminy Cricket, it's been almost 2 hours. My math says 1:58 and 50 at beep right there. Fred Blowers did the math for us. $780,000 divided by 162 games equals $4,814 per game. Per game. Boomer6129 says Sisu 2 was on Netflix. But wouldn't Sisu 1 be on demand at a lot of places? Miko Angel, April Fool's video where everything is dubbed in Finnish. If someone who speaks Finnish well can work with me, we can make something happen. Matt, or do you use the iPad timer on the live streams? No, the iPad timer is actually right there. You can't see it, but it's on it. It never leaves that table. But there is a clock in the right-hand corner of the screen for me. So the scroll is on the right-hand side, the chat, and directly above it, it says live with a red box, and then 1:59, 57, 58, 59, and 2 hours right there. So that's how I know it's been 2 hours. Johnny Z says, don't forget about 15% for the agent and so on. And don't forget about the IRS. Taxman wants his cut, and that slice will be large. Large. MD Hofsey says the Mets just sent the Yankees pitcher packing. Eastwind points out you don't have to be in the actual game playing, only to be on the active roster. So basically, if you're in the dugout. I'm not sure what happens if you're put on the 15-day disabled list. Lockwatcher, appreciate you being here on Sundays. Keep me company while I work in my shop. Oh, yes, and Tigerman 99515, each state gets their own share. And there's that whole argument about whether you pay the income tax in your domiciled state or in the states you play in. And don't even get me going on that. Cleo's mom says Sissy 2 is on Netflix. Which is better, 1 or 2? Watch them in order. You have to watch them in order because Sissy 1 explains who he is and why he's so angry. And then Sissy 2 explains why they should have left him alone. Oh, boy. Belio, did you ever see Moneyball? Yes. Very good movie. Made both economics and baseball interesting in a movie. Carl's Corner 4820. Steve, glad you fixed the buffering. You have no idea the trouble I went through to solve that problem, but I finally got it solved. So we should never have a trouble like that again, and I'm quite happy. So one more time, I'm going to tell you that I am speaking in Roseville, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit, basically, on Tuesday, May 19th, this upcoming Tuesday at 6 o'clock. It's free, and I'm going to be there talking about Preston Tucker, the car, the guy, and his battle to build a car of tomorrow. And because I'm doing a talk, I'm signing books afterwards. If you want to buy a book from me, I got piles of them because I bring them to the signing. So I'll have Preston Tucker. The book costs $20. The Chrysler Turbine Car expanded edition is $25. And of course, I've always got American Murder Houses because of course I do. And those are $15. So if you want one, go ahead, email me directly at steve@lehtoslaw.com. And I will then send you a note explaining how we work this out. But it's basically we use Square, which is secure like PayPal. You send me your address, but you have to be in the U.S. I can only do this in the U.S. Shipping costs outside the U.S. are prohibitive, as they say. So at that point in time, I think we're done. I will talk to you guys next weekend. I'm going to go now check out the Mets game and see how my buddy's stepson's doing. Until then, behave yourself. Bye-bye.